listeners. You are listening to the Kobo Writing Life podcast, where we bring you insights and inspiration for growing your self-publishing business. We're your hosts. I'm Tara Kremen, Director of Kobo Writing Life.
And I'm Rachel Wharton, Author Engagement Manager for Kobo Writing Life.
On today's episode, we chatted with DK Hood, the Wall Street Journal, USA Today best-selling author who has sold almost 2 million copies of her crime and psychological thrillers. She writes the hugely popular Kane and Alton and the Beth Katz series.
Our conversation with DK really focused on her process of writing crime novels. She doesn't plot her novels, which is baffling to me. She really lets her characters lead her, uncovering the truth of the crime as they do. She is celebrating releasing book 30 in the Kane and Alton series, the novel Nothing Stays Buried. And we chatted a lot about reaching this milestone, how she keeps her series exciting, both for her as the author and for her readers, and what it's been like for her to step out of the comfort zone of police procedurals and tackle writing psychological thriller standalone novels for the first time. There's a lot of fun info in here for the crime readers, crime writers, or the crime writing curious, and we hope you enjoy. Okay, we are joined today by author DK Hood. DK, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to chatting with you.
And we are very excited to chat with you about so many things, but just to kick us off, you have achieved something truly remarkable in that you are releasing the 30th book in your Detectives Kane and Alton series. So to start us off, could you tell our listeners a bit about the premise of both the series and this installment and what it was like for you to reach such a significant milestone?
Well, the actual series came to me with the first story of Dave Kane, which I've written Dave Kane's book and Jenna's book in two separate prequels. So that if the readers read those, they'll actually know what's going on in the story more because it sort of tells the background. But I dreamt about this guy who had just lost his wife in a car bombing and was in a really bad way. And but he was an asset, so the American government decided to put him into a nice quiet place, change his name, change his face, take all his tattoos off and all this sort of thing, and place him somewhere to recover, to get over his losing his wife and to build himself back up into what he was before, which was he was a sniper who later became a Secret Service agent. But he was sent out all the time because he was what they call an asset. So the story starts off with him heading off to Black Rock Falls to literally just find a job and become just a member of the community while he recovers. But he's got a new name. No one ever finds out his name throughout the whole book, by the way, his real name. And while he's there, of course, he meets Jenna Alton. Now, Jenna Alton was formerly a DEA agent called Avril Parker, and she'd been put deep undercover for 2 years prior and got into trouble with a drug cartel that also was slaving children. And she suffered PTSD and all this sort of thing, and she wasn't really good. And when she went to trial to give evidence, the cartel boss threatened her and all her family. So they put her in witness protection. She was in Black Rock Falls as well. Now, Black Rock Falls is a town, a fictional town, and it's set in the mountains. It's huge. It's a massive big place, big forest there, hundreds of thousands of hectares of forest land all around them, and mountains and rivers and falls and all sort of thing, lowlands, mines, plenty of places to kill people, you know. So I said it there, and it's a story really of when they meet, he becomes her deputy, and the way they go through it's just their life. What I've done is set their life and then put the murders in around their life. This is how I've done it. So when you read the books from book one, you follow the progression of their life, which is, it's just, I like that part of the story myself writing because I keep the people human, what would they do in this situation as a person rather than a character. So they're not characters to me, they're living people. So that's the way I go through the story. Yeah. So obviously every book there's a serial killer or two, lots of murders. And I work through the stories as if I'm the detective. So in my head, I'm the detective. So I'm a pantser. So I don't plot any of the books. I don't know what the ending's going to be. I have no idea who the murderer is until probably the last 3 or 4 chapters. And it just makes it different. So that's why I think the series went on so long, is because it's a different look into cops and that. And I've tried to make it cinematic more than he said, she said type of the book, you know, so you're looking at the action all the time. All my characters always are in the action. I never have one he said or she remarked or something like that. You'll never find that in my books. It's always a strong action scene all the time. Does that help? Is that good?
Absolutely. There's a lot of stuff there for us to dive into. I'm always so impressed at pantser thriller writers that are able to do these unputdownable books on the seat of their pants, but we'll jump into that in a little bit. What I'm curious about, because you were telling us there about the start of your characters with the Detectives Kane and Alton. So we're thinking about book 1, and now that we're on book 30, what does it feel like when you think about everything that you've put them through? Is there ever anything, as you're saying, that you see them as real people as well? Do you ever feel bad about anything you've made them investigate or go through?
I do. I feel for Jenna a lot of the time because, of course, she's got the emotional, she's emotional about child abuse and women being abused. I've done all sorts of things, like she's built a foundation, the Her Broken Wings Foundation, which tallies in with that book, Her Broken Wings. And anybody that comes past that needs help can always go to this foundation, and it's run by the local priest. So it's sort of, I try and tie in a lot of current things that are going on in the world as well with the books. So they sort of stay current, but not exactly, stuck to the date. So people can read them over many years and they'll still be okay.
And as Tara alluded to, over 30 books, your characters have been through quite a lot. And I'm curious how you keep the dynamic between them, both between Kane and Alton and the community that surrounds them, how you keep it fresh and compelling, both for your readers, but also for yourself as you continue to write in this series.
I think really with them, as I said, I treat them like real people. So everybody goes through bad days. And so I give them bad days. I give the men, women that annoy them, things that happen to men in real life, things that happen to women in real life. If are having a bad day, I put that in the books. Everybody has a bad day. I don't try and make them perfect. I think this is another thing. They've all got something that's not quite right. Every character that I've put in the book, even when we go to the FBI agents, Agent Carter and Agent Joe Wells. Joe Wells is divorced and she got dumped in this place called Snakeskin Gully because her husband had an affair with the director of the of where she worked. So they wanted to get rid of her. So she got dumped in Snakeskin Gully. And Carter, she rescued him from he was off the grid, an ex-SEAL, and he was off the grid, and she manages to recruit him into the FBI. So they've all got their weird stories. I think the only one who's sort of normal is Deputy Rowley, who's one of her rookies that has actually through the series has gone from a rookie to a proper deputy. But most of them have got troubled backgrounds, which makes it interesting because if anything goes wrong, I can always delve into the troubled backgrounds. I do put them in hair-raising situations a lot because you need to keep the pace up of the books. So you need to have some excitement and some action adventure in the books, which is important. Really, honestly, the books go how they just come to me as I'm writing them. I can't really explain how that happens. I'm just going along as if something happens in my mind. I thought, oh, well, this is what happened next. If I was doing an investigation, this is what's happened next. And if I was the killer, how would I go about avoiding being caught? I try and have about 3 or 4 different suspects at least and make every one of them a killer, really. They could all be a killer, which makes life difficult for the readers. Because in the end, I sort of decide myself which one is closest to who I think would be the killer. And then, that's what happens.
I'm also really curious about the settings in your books because it's almost a character in and of itself where you have set these books. And so I'm so curious because, as I'm sure our listeners will be able to tell via your accent, you are not from Montana. So I'm curious, what made you set your series here?
Well, I visited Montana when I was a teenager. I had family living there at the time, and I've never forgotten it. It was just one of those places that was magical. The mountains and the forests, the trees sort of like marching up the mountainsides, and it was just incredible. And it sort of stuck with me. The sky, the blue sky, and it was just a fabulous place. But really and truly, if you're looking for somewhere where killers could hide bodies or murder someone, it's a perfect place. I mean, the forests are so dense and they're everywhere. There's plenty of lakes and places where you could drown someone or whatever you wanted to do. They've got mines where you could take people. Like I've had some of my characters have taken people down and kept them in mine shafts. And it's one of those places that you could just about do anything you wanted to do as far as your imagination can stretch. That area that I created has places they can do it. But the majority of the murders happen in the forest because it just works really well. It's a scary place to be of a nighttime.
Wow, I've always wanted to visit Montana, and I still do, but now I am scared. But hopefully not too scared. But you definitely paint a beautiful area and like that part of the world I would love to visit. So I'm curious about now how you're saying that you don't plot your books. So how does that work when you're on book 30? How do you remember like the various through lines or anything? Because I always like to imagine authors have those sort of big murder boards with this character is connected to this character. Do you have a sort of series Bible that you do refer to, or does it all just live with you?
No, it lives with me. That's a really good expression. It lives with me. I don't have any character boards or anything like that. I honestly wouldn't have time to look through them to find out what I was doing. Each book, the copy editor gives me a style guide of all the characters that are in that book and the ones before. So I don't reuse character names is the main thing. But usually I can remember if I've used those character names before. No, I haven't had the need to do anything like that. As I said, I imagine like if you were watching a long series on TV, like say Heartland, for instance, which I loved. I thought that was wonderful. I love the scenery. So for me, it was just like feeding my mind with scenery. If you have something like that, you could always remember the characters and what they've been doing and what their relationship to each other are. And I think that's the same as what happens to me. I just see it as a series on TV.
And has the process changed from book one at all? Or is it just that you're seeing it, I guess, as you're saying, the next installment, but you've been using the same sort of tactic since your first book?
Yeah, it's the same tactics, really. Well, the first book was, I don't know whether you know this, but I suffer from a lot of pain and I can't take any medication. And I went to this pain management course, which was really quite amusing because they sort of tell you not to be, or you just imagine you're not in pain, which doesn't really work, but to lose yourself in something that you might like. So I actually started writing some sort of magical type little stories for my grandchildren. Then I had this dream about Dave Kane, as I told you. It was just like watching a movie. It was really weird. I woke up and you don't usually remember your dreams too much, but it was so stuck in my head, it just wouldn't go away. So I sort of wrote a little bit about him. And then Jenna came along and then it just went like that. And then I decided to try and, just became Don't Tell a Soul, which was a really long book. They cut it right back. It was about, 150,000 words when we started. I just wrote and wrote and wrote, and I read it back through, and I read it out loud to my husband actually, and he said to me, that's a really good story. And I thought, well, I went and had a look on Amazon just to see who were the top publishers and the top crime thriller type publishers, and Bookouture had about 7 or 8 books in the top 100. So I just went on the site and sent in my manuscript, and within 3 weeks I had a contract for 3 books. So it went from there. I met Helen Jenner, who has been with me all the time. She's the most amazing editor. She's very encouraging. She keeps me on the straight and narrow. Yeah, it just sort of went from there. And the books just come. As soon as I finished book 30, I had book 31 coming into my mind, and I'm thinking, go away, let me finish this book, because book 30, if you have read it, was a very complicated book. And I think with about 4 chapters to go, I still hadn't tied it all together in my head, what was going to happen. I knew it all had to come together in the end, but I honestly didn't know. I didn't have anything. And then I said to Helen, I don't even have the ending of this book, because she wanted to do the retailer's description and things like that. And I couldn't even tell her how it was going to end. And then it just came to me. I was just writing, and it just all fell into place. It was the most amazing thing. Honestly, I thought I was going to be in trouble with book 30 at the end. I did. And it just all fell into place, and everything just worked out. Especially with so many characters. I was bringing in Beth Katz from the other series, and all the FBI agents. Having 3 stories running at the same time in your head is quite difficult. So I'm quite surprised that I actually managed to get that finished on time, actually.
And I'm so curious because, like you said, you're doing all of this in your head, which is wild. I can barely remember the characters on a TV show that I've watched for 10 seasons, let alone books that I'm writing. So, kudos to you, because that's so impressive. But I'm curious how much changes from draft 1 through the editing process. Once you know, okay, this is how it's going to end. The killer is this person. Do you have to do any revisions throughout the editing process to kind of sprinkle in clues? Or do you find because you have a couple ideas, you're pretty set?
Well, the books are by the time I finish them, I usually go back and read the chapter I've written before. I read that through before I start again, because I write every day. I write for 7 hours every day. I sometimes have a day off, Sundays if I want to go out, but in the mornings I do the normal things everyone does, and then from 12 o'clock till 7 o'clock every day I work. So it's a very tough schedule, but it's the only way I can get the books written on time, because I'm getting old now. I'm 75. I mean, it's not like I'm a young chicken who can work really fast, and I can't type, so I'm still the 2-finger typer. Well, when I've finished, I go back and do an edit myself. And I'm very, very anal about making sure that the manuscript goes in very clean for the editor. It's one of those things, I think it's a respect thing. I never send in a manuscript that's not almost perfect. So there's very few edits that come back. She sends back a few suggestions, in a structural edit, and then it's usually a structural and line edit together, because there's usually not that much for her to do, to be perfectly honest.
Writing 7 days a week for 7 hours is a lot. That's a lot of writing. And if that works for and clearly it does, because you're putting these books out and you've got this enormous audience. I know a lot of authors that we work with might struggle with finishing a single series, or are balancing writing on top of their day jobs. They're doing it on the side. I wonder, do you have any advice for authors to get that motivation to maybe not put in the 7 hours, but I guess maybe to show up every day to write?
I don't know how you juggle a career with writing, to be perfectly honest. You either should, if possible, should be doing one thing or the other. The main thing for me was to get myself into a schedule. So what I do is I always start at 12 o'clock every day, no matter what, unless I'm going out for the day, of course. I do give myself some days off, but at 12 o'clock, that's the day I write. I always read the chapter prior, so it brings my mind up to date with what I'm doing. And then it usually starts to flow pretty easily. I think that would be the best advice, would be to stick to a schedule and do the same thing. If you can only write 1,000 words, 500 words a day, right? Stick to that. If that makes it easier for you. I think if you get overtired, you can't write properly. So you're better off just writing what you can do at any particular time. And you soon start to expand that each day. So maybe you say, okay, I'm going to set 2 hours aside to write what you can in that time, and then see how you go, and, a little bit later on, try and expand it until you can do a few more hours work. And it's not the amount of words you write, it's the quality that you write. You can type there like crazy and then read it back and it's rubbish. So you're better off writing the quality and taking your time and writing it so you don't have to go back and do the edits. That's my advice.
And I'm curious about what your research process looks like with your writing then, because you've got some, pretty procedural elements. You have detectives of different rankings and coming in from different areas. And it feels like there's a lot of information behind, like it reads very naturally. So what's your research process look like for this? And how do you balance adding that realistic piece into your narrative?
Well, I do an awful lot of research. I really do. When I first started, of course, every state in America's got different laws, different for what you can't be general at all. You have to go precise. So I just made sure I had all the Montana laws. If I'm doing something or putting someone in prison, or just the time that they're allowed to keep them in custody and things like that, all the different things, jail terms, what cops are allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do, what sheriff's allowed to do, jurisdiction, all this. I went through until I, learned all that. The same thing is with the forensics. I'm on top of forensics because forensics is one of my fields, as in respect to I've got a very scientific background. So for me, I love forensics. So I made sure I'm up to date with that all the time, with finding out anything that's happened new, anything that's come in that's new, and put that in the books so that Wolf's up to date all the time, who's the medical examiner. Wolf is up to date all the time. The police procedural, as I said, is doing that, making sure the ranks, whatever they do, is right. The forensics is very important. I'm just trying to think what else is. Police procedural, again, is very important to see. What I did was I got things like the FBI procedural list, which comes, you can get that on the internet in a PDF file, and anything different to what they do differently in Montana to they do everywhere else. So that when I'm writing, if there's something that I don't know, I'll go and look it up if I get stuck somewhere or I'm concerned about something. But for me, the main thing was language, because I've been an Australian now for 50 years and we say things totally different to what they do in America. And Montanians have certain little phrases and things that they use. So I had to make sure that what I use, I don't use any English or anything else, any Australian sort of slang. That's one of the things that was quite difficult.
Yeah, nobody's grabbing a burger at Macca's in Montana. I'll go into McDonald's instead.
No. No, well, that's why I created Aunt Betty's Cafe, which is like my mug here.
I love that so much.
So everyone loves Aunt Betty's Cafe. I think if I opened that shop for them, they'd love it.
A new side hustle for you, opening a cafe in between your 7 hours of writing. Now, I'm curious, when you're approaching each novel, you mentioned it kind of comes to you almost like the next installment, and I'm going to keep using the analogy of a TV show. If each book is an episode of a TV show, then you still have the overarching series where there are overarching stories. And I'm curious how you balance the pacing of those to include the big character elements that go from book to book while still having a self-contained mystery in each novel.
I think keeping up the pace is, I use shorter chapters and have them ending in a sort of a cliffhanger or whatever, and at the end of each one. I think that keeps the pace up. I think that's one of the main things. And I like to have the fear factor in there all the time. So you're constantly not sure. You're not sure what's happening. And another thing which I use, apart from keeping everything in the action, I'll give you for an example, rather than saying Kane was angry, I'll say Kane walked in the room, the door hit slammed the door and slammed his fist on the table. Now, you're not going to have to say he said angrily, are you, after that? You know what I mean? And that gives you the reader the picture straight away in their minds of what you're seeing yourself. So that's important. The other thing, apart from writing in the action, is very important. And using power words. I use a lot of power words. I don't know whether you notice that, but it rather than just a sort of a method I use, exhausted at the beginning of a thing, rather than saying she was exhausted. Exhausted, Jenna fell onto the chair or dropped onto the sofa or whatever like that. So you've got that power word. So you've exactly got the mood straight away. And little things like that, and keeping up the fear, like heart pounding. It's just a power word, and it sort of picks up the book as the stories as you're in the fear. So I feed a lot on the reader's fear, really, and that's what I do. And I might add here, I don't read any of these type of books myself. They terrify me.
But that was going to be my next question, was like, how did you pick up these like tips and tricks for pacing and for using this kind of language to really feed on the fear and anxiety of your readers?
Well, I don't really know, actually. To be perfectly honest, it just happens. It's one of those things. I read it back and say it's not scary enough, so I put a bit more of this in or a bit more of that in. But the serial killer things came from, I really liked knowing about the psychology of people. So I've read a lot about serial killers, and what really got me into using serial killers was I watched the Iceman video, about the Iceman, about the serial killer. He was the first one, and then I went on to Ed Gaynor and a few of the others, and I went through everything I could find on the internet about all the different serial killer interviews, the real interviews, and you pick up an awful lot from them. You realise exactly how to make your killer in your book, how to make him evasive and nice sometimes, and also when he turns into the serial killer, the change in him when it happens. All these things came mainly from the first one. I noticed that that guy that's the Iceman, how he changed when he was talking to the reporter, how he just suddenly changed and went from like the granddad type looking person into the serial killer, and you could actually see the change happening. And to me, all those sorts of things feeds my imagination. So going to the real people was the actual trick for me to be able to portray what I do in the books. So what you're seeing there is all little snatches of all real people that were serial killers. So it's quite scary when you think about it. And I don't get bad dreams about them or anything like that. When I close the book, that's it. I don't really think about it, but I can't watch anything like murder type things on TV. I don't watch. I'm a Harry Potter, Outlander sort of a person. I'm reading listening. I listen to audiobooks. I'm listening to the Harry Potter audiobooks at the moment, the new ones. But that's me. I'm more of a fairy story person, really. So I don't know where it comes from. There must be this very evil side of me living in here somewhere.
Well, I wouldn't worry about it because you're getting it out on the page, so it seems perfectly healthy. But so there's a lot of tension in your books, and clearly you're taking a lot of inspiration from very scary people, and your readers, you've been read by you've sold 2 million copies of your books, which is incredible. So your readers must have this expectation of wanting to get that scare or maintain that fear tension throughout your books. So just curious about how you balance making sure that your long-term fans get that, but also engage with new fans that might be coming in to just read book 30 as their first DK Hood book.
I try to write every story different from the others, of course. I keep everything different, but I try to introduce most of the characters as I go through, but not just an information dump, like some people do. I just try and, as I'm writing the story, I try and sort of add where these people are and how they got there as we're going through the story, mainly to pick up the new readers and make sure that they know who people are. But balancing I really honestly can't tell you. I just write the stories, and they make them frightening, make them exciting. I think I really want them to connect, really. To connecting sometimes with the victims. It's very hard when you're getting them to connect with the victims, because some of the victims go through some terrible things. And I found that really, if I'm using young women or something and I've got them locked in a cellar, it really, it not annoys the reader, but it's very traumatic for the reader. So I try more or less brush over what happens to them. I'm never descriptive about what actually happens. All that comes up in the autopsies. I actually read autopsies to get the autopsies. This is the sort of things I do. I read the autopsies, anything I can find on the internet about autopsies on different things, all these things to get the realism into the stories.
Are they publicly available?
Yeah. Yeah, you can find autopsies anywhere on the internet.
I clearly am not taking advantage of the internet.
For me, that's very important. You could go on to different forensic sites and find things about different autopsies or different methods of finding out how to, for instance, I've had people that drowned. I wouldn't have a clue what happens to people that drown. When people drown, you say, well, they drowned. They didn't. They suffocate, actually. And I would never have known that if I hadn't read autopsies about that. It's asphyxiation by water. So it's totally different to what you would imagine. So yeah, reading autopsies, reading different methods of discovering how people died. It's all part of how I get the books, realism into the books. And with the medical examiner, Shane Wolfe, he's Kane's handler. He was sent there because he was Kane's handler, and he became the medical examiner. And because he's with the government, really, he gets sent everything to all the brand new equipment and all these testing things. So I get to play around in my books with all these wonderful new, like snapshot DNA and things like this. And the last one, I found these patches that they were using in the military, that if you've like torn your shoulder, they can put this patch on, and it'll make you speed up your metabolism to heal the things. And I found all these wonderful new things just recently. So, and in my in the book I'm writing now, book 31, we've got a robot, an AI robot that works in the as a recovery and in the forensics thing. So it's working in the mortuary. And there's a funny part I've just written about when Kane and Alton go to the medical examiner's office. The Shane Wolfe isn't there. He's doing something in another room, and the robot won't let them into the hallway, and he bans them from going in, and doesn't like the dog with them, and all this. It's so I put little funny things in there as well.
So are you constantly researching, always reading up on new tech, on new forensics, on autopsies and different ways people have died? Is this just kind of a constant thing, or is this part of your 7-hour a day writing block?
Well, not really. No, I write for 7. I write for 7 hours. No, I get a lot of pleasure in reading these things. I know it sounds a bit sick, but I read it and I'm constantly feeding my brain all the time. I've always been like this all my life. I don't forget things I can read things once and usually remember them. So I've been very lucky in that way, because I can remember most things that I've read. Going through my education, it was very easy for me to pass exams because I've just been lucky to have a brain that remembers things. And at my age now, you should be forgetting things, but I don't. I forget to eat some days, but
eating is important. You should remember.
Sometimes I just get so in the world, that I do. My husband says, "Are you going to eat anything today?"
That's the one thing I'll never forget.
We've been talking a lot about your kind of the crime procedural series here, but you're also writing psychological thrillers that are standalones. And, we've been talking about the tension in your books, that there's a lot of psychological thriller-ness within these crime procedurals. I'm just wondering about the difference in writing a standalone versus this series. How does that look to you in your 7-hour-a-day process?
Well, when I wrote the first one, The Liar I Married, it was mainly because I'd finished some books early, finished the actual books early, and I had some time spare. And I just wanted to write something totally different, really, to give my brain a rest from Kane and Alton. And it was, I think the thing is, really, is in the stories, with the psychological thriller, the main character is one is the unreliable person. You don't know. They're usually the crazy person. Whereas you're like almost, for me, I'm almost in the mind of a psychopath when I'm writing the psychological thriller, because the unreliable narrator is usually the main character. So you're never really sure. I want to make the reader feel like you're never really sure if they're crazy or they're actually seeing what they're seeing. So for me, that was a bit of a challenge. And when I wrote it, I asked my editor if what do you think if I wrote a psychological thriller? And she said, well, she's really, really good at editing psychological thrillers. Most of her authors are writing in that genre. She said, oh, I can, I'll help you through it. And I said, no, I'd like you just to leave me and let me write it, and I'll give it to you. And then you can tell me if it's rubbish or not. So I must have nailed it in one because, that book did really well. I'm really pleased with it. And then the next one come along after, of course, different. I've just finished writing another one as well. So I've written 3 now. The third one I really like. It has characters in it I didn't want to leave. I wanted to have a series of these people that was just, I've really got attached to the people in this, the third book. And it's all sort of set around a song that causes so much, but this like death metal band have put out a song, and someone gets murdered, and what's the lyrics of the song are exactly how the murder was staged. And I sort of took it from that, sort of like that sort of going into the lives of movie stars, rock and roll people, and a girl that's been sent there to write the memoirs of the movie star who's married to the rock star, and all the weird things that happen to her. She's trying to find out what's going on. So that's the sort of the third one I've written. That's in edits now. So I write some crazy stuff.
Is it a different experience for you dipping into a world for one book and then leaving, rather like with this experience of writing such a long running series?
Yeah, the first 2 psych thrillers were easy for me to walk away from. I gave them a nice ending and we walked away from them. But this third one I got quite attached to the characters because they were just, I had a lot of depth in the characters. I think that was it. I could see them like I do the Kane and Alton more than I did the other books. And they're very rounded characters and they've all got stories to tell. And it just felt to me like I just wish I could write another story about this girl. Maybe she moves on somewhere else, but now she's got a different type of a family around her and different people around her, and how they're going to influence her as she goes forward in her life. And I just think that it would be I could do a great sequel to the third book, but we'll see. It's time. That one took me a long time because I fit it in every time I finished a book. If I had 2 weeks to spare, which you wouldn't believe I sometimes get 2 weeks to spare, but it depends how the flow goes and how fast I finish. But I had like 2 weeks to spare here, 2 weeks to spare there. So I sort of started in August last year and finished it like this year because I was just fitting in every couple of weeks. And it was a really good refresher for my brain because what they're all written in first person. So changing over from one thing to the other was sort of like giving your brain a bit of a shake and saying, come on, let's do something different. Because I think, honestly, if I kept writing the Kane and Alton all the time and not doing anything else, I'd probably go crazy. That's why we wrote the Beth Katz series. It's sort of a similar series, but Beth Katz is a serial killer and an FBI agent as well. So it's quite, she kills goes out and murders people that she can't bring to justice or slip through the net. So it's sort of a different story. And she knows she's a serial killer, but she can't quite understand why she's a serial killer. And she can't understand why she has no feelings and she can't love people and things like this. So it's sort of quite a tragic story about what she's going through. But it's sort of another side to a serial killer, so I really enjoyed writing that.
I know you've said that your books sort of feel episodic. I'm wondering if you have any advice for authors who are looking to keep a series running for a long time, because I love hearing about a book that's going to 30, like a series that is going to 30 books, because sometimes we get the question about, is 15 too many? Will readers follow me? So just wondering, what would you say to an author who's hesitating on continuing to write in a series?
Well, the first thing is if the reader's interested in the books and they want more books, I think that's one of the main things. It's pointless writing a book if it's not going to sell. And I think keeping the characters real, not cardboard characters, make sure they've all got lives around them and interests and things like that. Like my characters, the males in the characters all build old Harleys from scratch, things like that. They've got all sorts of different hobbies, and one goes to a dojo and does, martial arts and all sorts of things. They've got all different backgrounds. But the other thing mainly is to bring in new characters. So every so often you need to bring in a character that's going to freshen everything up, give the story some more oomph, so you've got a nice character coming in, and usually someone that's very believable, someone that adds to the dynamic of the story. So when I started off, I had Jenna, Kane and Rowley there, the young guy. And then we had to bring in more because as the cases were getting more complicated, they needed more people to deal with them. So I was bringing in different characters and giving them all their own little stories and do that. And that's what I do every so often. I bring in a new character. The latest character that came in was Rhett Lawson. He's a friend of one of Wolf's daughters, Julie, that she met at a convention. And they're doing the same courses so that when they left college, he found out that he had been left left money from his parents that had died 20 years previously. And when he goes to the reading of the will, his father's left him a letter saying that if you're reading this, I've been murdered. So that sort of brings him into the story, gives me another new story, and it just goes on from there. And so I fill out his character, make sure he's welcomed into the family of the people. And then, that's what led on to book 30, that all the different things around what happened with him. That's what I do. I just bring in a new character every so often. I think that's one of the main things I would do if I was trying to extend the series or give that advice. I would say, keep it fresh, bring in new characters. Don't write about the same old things all the time. Make sure you don't repeat things from before. Have an exciting new story and different angles, and use everything around you. There's so much to look in at a story. It's not just the murder and the people. You've got to look at everything. You've got to have your place where you're setting it. It's got to be a character as well. So you've got to have everything about that. You've got to bring in the weather conditions. All those sorts of things are very important in a book, so that you're giving the person the whole, what you're seeing in your head completely, the entire look around. I often say, I used to mentor people, a few years ago, which I don't never charge for mentoring. If someone wanted to be mentored, I would just help them. To say, when you're writing a scene, if you can't, close your eyes and look around you and say, what am I seeing here in this scene? What am I seeing? And put it into the book. Never assume that people know what you're seeing, because they don't. You have to tell them what you're seeing, or show them what you're seeing is probably the correct term. And so, this is what I used to tell people, give them little, things to do. Like I'd say, okay, you're walking into your lounge room. What do you see? Write me exactly what you're seeing. But I don't want a list. I want a description. So that helped them out.
I think that's great advice for keeping both a book fresh, but also a series, a little bit of fresh blood, new character that you can get to know and kind of torment a little as an author. And I'm curious, with book 30 out, you've mentioned you're working on book 31. You've started writing psychological standalone thrillers. What's your next creative challenge? What are you looking forward to tackling next?
I think for me, it'd be more psychological thrillers. I'd like to keep writing. Well, I'm contracted to write more for Kane and Alton's a year, so I'll be keeping doing those because I really enjoy writing them. I love the stories. I think I'd miss the characters myself. I think if they didn't want to write, publish any more books, I think I'd still write them anyway. Mainly because the characters are alive to me and I just like to keep telling the stories. So, and they come into my mind. The psychological thrillers, as I said, is a break for me. But, I also do like, I can't remember, they've got a new genre for it now. I think it's called, is it fantasy romance, or is that the right word?
Romantasy is the buzzword.
Right. Yeah. Well, I've actually written a story about a guy that, is also a dragon, and romance about that. It just came to me and I just started jotting it down bits by bit, and I now have finished it. So I was joking with my editor. We had a chat with the whole team, and I said, I've written a story about a dragon, and they all thought it was hilariously funny. So, but I might go through and polish it and send it somewhere. I don't know yet, but I found that so relaxing to write about dragons. Sounds crazy.
Well, Rachel and I will give a home to your book about dragons. The readers would love that, I think.
Well, it's finished. It's probably not long enough yet. I probably need to go through it and make sure it's long enough. It was just one of those things I started just doing for no particular reason. Only I was bored. I didn't want to write anything else, and I think I've been finishing edits, and what I did was I just started writing this little story, and it just sort of grew and grew and grew. The characters grew. So yeah, it's quite a nice story actually. It's very me, in respect to it's very action adventure as well as being romantic as well. And you're terrified for the main characters all the time. All the way through it, all the horrible things they meet along the way when they're traveling.
Lots of people talk about wanting to write books and then never actually do it. And you're writing additional books just when you're a little bit bored. I really love this, and I admire you. Clearly just have such a love of the writing and the work that you're doing. And if listeners are looking to find you and your books online, where can they find out more about you?
Well, I'm on Facebook. Obviously, I've got my Facebook readers page where I chat to my readers every day. They can ask me any sorts of questions they want. Anyone can join the group, provided they're interested in my books. I'm on Facebook as I've got a social page and I've got an author's page. I am on Instagram, but I don't go on there every day. It's just I'm there. I put things on there occasionally, but you can usually find me on those two places, or you can contact me through my webpage, which is dkhood.com. Yeah, my email address is there. I'm a very open person. I answer all my own emails. I don't have a personal assistant. If we do all sorts of things, I put members of my authors group sometimes come into my books as extras. So we put them in there, and when they do that, if they want to, I'm not encouraging them to buy the paperback. I just said, if you've bought the paperback, I'll send them a book plate or a little gold seal with the DK Hood written on it, and send them an autographed book plate to put in the books. I was sending out books, but with all the different changes that have happened in the postal things just lately, it's sometimes we just can't. We're not allowed to send them because of the different taxes on them. So I can get away with sending the book plates, which they really like that, and they like being in the books. I use their real names, but I just use them as extras, like witnesses or things like that. So they have quite a bit of fun with that. So okay, I do that every book now. I was just doing it occasionally, but everyone's saying I'd love to be in the book. So I just I just add people as we go along, and they give them little parts in the stories.
Well, if you want to add a Tara and Rachel that never forget to eat, we're just eating a burger in the diner background there, feel free to use our likenesses.
Okay.
Thanks so much, DK. It's been a pleasure chatting with you today.
Yeah, I've had a lovely time. As I said before, when you're working all the time, I talk to my husband about my books and my editor about my books, but unless people ask me questions online, I really don't get a chance to have such a lovely conversation about my books, how I do things. So it's been really great. I've really enjoyed myself. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Kobo Writing Life podcast. If you are interested in picking up DK's books, we will include links in our show notes. If you are enjoying this podcast, please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe. And if you're looking for more tips on growing your self-publishing business, you can find us on socials. We are at Kobo Writing Life on Facebook, Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok.
This episode was hosted by Rachel Wharton and Tara Kremen, with production by Terrence Abrahams. Editing is provided by Kelly Robotham, and our theme music is composed by Tearjerker. And huge thanks to DK for being a great guest. If you're ready to start your publishing journey, then sign up today at kobo.com/writinglife. Until next time, happy writing.